You know that feeling when your brain feels like a browser with 47 tabs open. Your to-do list is endless, thoughts are scattered everywhere, and you can't even remember what you were supposed to do 5 minutes ago. I've been there, and it's exhausting. But what if I told you there's one visual technique that can organize all that mental chaos in just minutes? It's called mind mapping, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. You'll see the step-by-step process, plus a real example of how it transformed my most overwhelming project into something actually manageable. What mind mapping actually is. Mind mapping is basically a visual brain dump that works with how your brain naturally thinks. Instead of fighting against your mind's tendency to jump around, you're working with it. Here's why traditional to-do lists fail you. Your brain doesn't think in straight lines. When you think about your work project, your mind immediately connects it to deadlines, then to your boss, then to that meeting next week, then back to the budget concerns. That's radial thinking, not linear thinking. But we force ourselves to write everything in boring straight lists. No wonder we feel scattered. A mind map has 5 core components. You start with the central topic in the middle of your page. Then you create branches that radiate out for major categories or themes. Each branch gets sub-branches with specific details. You use single keywords instead of full sentences, and you add colors to categorize everything. Finally, you connect related ideas across different branches with lines. Now, most people think mind mapping is just making pretty diagrams. That's completely wrong. This isn't about artistic talent or making something Instagram worthy. It's about getting your thoughts out of your head in a way that actually makes sense. Let me show you the difference. When thoughts are stuck in your head, they feel like this overwhelming cloud of stress. Everything seems equally urgent and important. But when you get them onto a visual map, suddenly you can see what's actually connected, what's most important, and what you can tackle first. I discovered this technique during one of the most overwhelming projects of my career. I was managing a complete office restructure while dealing with budget cuts and staff changes. Every morning I'd wake up with this knot in my stomach because I couldn't even figure out where to start. I had lists everywhere, sticky notes on my computer, notes in my phone, random papers on my desk, nothing connected to anything else, and I felt like I was drowning. Then a colleague showed me mind mapping, and honestly, I thought it looked like something from elementary school. But I was desperate, so I tried it. I put office restructure in the center of a blank page and just started drawing branches for everything swirling in my head. Budget concerns, staff meetings, equipment needs, timeline issues, communication plans. Within 20 minutes, I could see the whole project laid out visually. I could see which tasks were actually connected, what needed to happen first, and what I'd been overthinking. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. The project that seemed impossible suddenly had a clear structure. That's when I realized mind mapping isn't about making things look neat. It's about making sense of chaos, the step-by-step mind mapping process. Let me walk you through the exact process I use, because once you get this down, you'll wonder how you ever managed without it. Start with a blank piece of paper. I know, everyone wants to use apps and digital tools, but trust me on this. There's something about putting pen to paper that helps your brain process differently. Plus, you're not limited by software constraints. Put your main topic or problem right in the center of the page. Draw a circle around it or make it bold, whatever works for you. This could be work stress, project deadline, or life balance. Keep it simple and clear. Now here's where it gets interesting. Create your main branches radiating out from the center like spokes on a wheel. These represent your major categories or themes. For work stress, your branches might be deadlines, workload, relationships, resources, and personal impact. Don't overthink this part. Your first instinct is usually right, and you can always add more branches later. Draw thick lines for these main branches and write one keyword on each line. Not sentences, just single words or short phrases. Here's where most people mess up. They start writing full sentences or detailed explanations on their branches. Don't do that. Your brain processes keywords faster than sentences. Instead of writing, I have too many meetings that interrupt my work, just write meetings on one sub-branch and interruptions on another. Now add sub-branches to each main branch. These are the specific details, tasks, or ideas related to each category. From your deadlines branch, you might have sub-branches for client report, budget review, and team presentation. From workload, you might branch out to email backlog, new projects, and daily tasks. Keep adding layers as needed. Each sub-branch can have its own sub-branches. The beauty is that you can go as detailed as necessary without losing the big picture. Colors are your secret weapon here. Use different colors for different types of information or priority levels. I use red for urgent items, blue for important but not urgent, and green for ideas or future possibilities. Some people color code by category or by who's responsible for what. The colors aren't just pretty decorations. They help your brain categorize and remember information better. When you glance at your mind map later, you'll immediately see patterns and priorities without having to read every word. Now comes the magic part. Look for connections between different branches and draw lines to connect related ideas. Maybe your email backlog under workload connects to communication issues under relationships. Draw a line between them. These connection lines reveal insights you wouldn't see otherwise. Suddenly you realize that your email problem isn't just about time management, it's also affecting your team relationships. That's a different solution than you might have considered. Let me tell you about the most common mistakes I see people make. First, they make it too complex right from the start. You don't need to map out your entire life in one session. Start simple and build up. Second, they use too many words. Remember, this is about keywords and visual connections, not writing essays on branches. If you find yourself writing sentences, step back and ask what the core concept is. Third, they overthink the design. This is an art class. Messy mind maps that work are better than beautiful mind maps that don't help you think clearly. Focus on getting your thoughts out, not on making it look perfect. Here's your practice exercise, and I want you to actually do this. Think of one situation that's stressing you out right now. Maybe it's a work project, a family issue, or even planning a vacation that feels overwhelming. Get a piece of paper and put that stressful situation in the center. Set a timer for 10 minutes and just start branching out everything related to that situation. Don't judge or edit, just get it all out. Include the practical stuff like tasks and deadlines, but also include the emotional stuff like your worries and fears. Put down afraid I'll mess up or don't know where to start if that's what's in your head. Use colors if you have colored pens available. Connect things that relate to each other. When the timer goes off, step back and look at what you've created. I guarantee you'll see your situation differently. What felt like an overwhelming mess in your head will now be a visual map you can actually work with. You'll spot patterns, see what's most important, and identify your next steps. The reason mind mapping is so powerful for stress reduction comes down to how our brains handle overwhelm. When everything stays stuck in your head, your brain treats every thought as equally important and urgent. That's why you feel paralyzed. Getting those thoughts out of your head and onto paper immediately reduces the mental load you're carrying. It's like clearing cache on your computer. Suddenly you have mental space to think clearly instead of just reacting to whatever thought is loudest in your head. But here's what's really powerful. Mind mapping reveals patterns and connections you couldn't see before. That work project that felt impossible. When you map it out, you realize it's actually 3 smaller projects that got tangled together in your mind. 3 smaller projects feel manageable in a way that one giant mess doesn't. It breaks big problems into smaller manageable pieces. Instead of, I have to reorganize my entire life, you see specific areas like morning routine, work boundaries, and evening wind down. Each piece has clear action steps instead of vague overwhelm. Mind mapping also gives you a clear visual of what actually needs your attention. versus what's just mental noise. I had a client who was stressed about a presentation. When we mapped it out, she realized 80% of her worry was about things completely outside her control. Once she could see that visually, she focused her energy on the 20% she could actually influence. Most importantly, it creates a sense of control over chaotic situations. When everything's swirling in your head, you feel helpless. When it's mapped out in front of you, you become the person in charge of the situation instead of the victim of it. Here's a real example. Last month, I was feeling completely overwhelmed about launching a new workshop series. In my head, it felt like this massive, impossible project. I was procrastinating and getting more stressed by the day. I finally sat down and mind mapped the whole thing. The center was workshop launch. My main branches were content creation, marketing, logistics, technology, and follow-up. As I added sub-branches, something clicked. I realized I'd been treating this like one giant project when it was actually 5 separate projects that I could tackle one at a time. The content was already 70% done from previous work. The technology piece was just choosing between 2 platforms I already knew how to use. What felt impossible on Monday became a clear action plan by Wednesday. That's the power of getting chaos out of your head and onto paper, where you can actually see what you're dealing with. Quick recap and next steps. Mind mapping transforms mental chaos into visual clarity that your brain can actually work with. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by everything swirling in your head, you get a clear map of what needs attention. Try this with one stressful situation today. Get it out of your head and onto paper. You'll be amazed at how manageable things become when you can see them clearly. Subscribe for more stress management tools that actually work. Quick recap and next steps. Mind mapping transforms mental chaos into visual clarity that your brain can actually work with. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by everything swirling in your head, you get a clear map of what needs attention. Try this with one stressful situation today. Get it out of your head and onto paper. You'll be amazed at how manageable things become when you can see them clearly. Subscribe for more stress management tools.